Red Nose Day is back, and Doctor Who has a part to play in the history of this event, appearing in multiple years for skits and appeals. For anyone who doesn't know what Red Nose Day is, well, it's an annual day for Comic Relief, a charity in the UK. The day is specific for comedians to try to do something funny and to raise money for the charity, to help fight famine and poverty. Comic Relief for a while used to be every other year, allowing an alternative show, Sport Relief, to take the reins. Eventually Sport Relief ended, allowing Comic Relief to be a yearly event. So, let's take a look back through the past to see all the instances of Doctor Who appearing during Red Nose Day. The first instance of Doctor Who's partnership with them occurred when Comic Relief was founded, but before the Red Nose Day shows actually came about, so let's start with that one. Colin Baker, the Sixth Doctor, made an appeal in 1985 during the famine crisis in Ethiopia. As this was prior to the show, it was a simple appeal asking for donations to help with the crisis. Doctor Who returned in a way in 1999 for a 20-minute episode split up into 4 parts across the night. The episode was a spoof, but it continued on from where the TV movie left off, starting with the 9th Doctor, Rowan Atkinson, moving on to the 10th Doctor, Richard E. Grant, the 11th Doctor, Jim Broadbent, the 12th Doctor, Hugh Grant, and the 13th Doctor, Joanna Lumley. What's interesting about this skit is that Hugh Grant, who played the 12th Doctor, was actually approached by Russell T Davies to play the 9th Doctor in the revival, but Grant turned the approach down because he was under the assumption that the show would fail. He later said he regretted turning it down. The special was even written by Stephen Moffat, who was an occasional writer during Russell's first era before taking over as showrunner himself between 2010 and 2017. Stephen was asked to write the special by Richard Curtis, who himself would later return to Doctor Who to write an episode under Stephen Moffat, with Vincent and the Doctor. It's also quite interesting that the skit made the 13th Doctor female, and then the actual show also made the 13th Doctor female. Although the Doctor Who connection for the skit in 2007, the primary focus was on Catherine Tate's character from The Catherine Tate Show. This skit was David Tennant becoming the new English teacher, Mr. Logan, for Catherine Tate's Lauren Cooper. She would keep making Doctor Who jokes towards him. The skit would eventually end with David pulling out a sonic screwdriver, aiming it towards Catherine and turning her into a miniature figure of Rose. Whilst not Doctor Who, it's still set inside the same universe, and this time it was focused on Sarah Jane's spin-off, The Sarah Jane Adventures. This skit featured Ronnie Corbett as an ambassador who arrived in the attic to congratulate and thank the group for protecting the Earth. However, Ronnie's character keeps repeatedly farting, which resulted in the group getting suspicious about him. It also featured K9 returning for the skit, who confirmed Ronnie's character was a Slovene. This is the only time, as of now, that a spin-off has been given the focus for Red Nose Day instead of Doctor Who. In 2011, we returned back to Doctor Who. And unlike David and Catherine's previous Red Nose Day appearance, Matt, Karen and Arthur all appeared inside of the universe this time, as their own characters, due to a malfunction caused by Rory, although Amy took responsibility due to her skirt. The TARDIS materialised inside itself, and featured the crew interacting with the other versions of themselves, who were slightly ahead of time. This was also the first skit that had Stephen Moffat return to Red Nose Day for the first time since 1999. By this point, Doctor Who itself had become more known for working with children in need, but Stephen Moffat wrote this 2011 skit specifically for Red Nose Day. In 2013, the Doctor Who skit for Comic Relief ended up being combined, which merged with One Born Every Minute and Call the Midwife. One Born Every Minute was a documentary series on Channel 4 which took place in a labour ward of a hospital, whilst Call the Midwife is a BBC show that's still running to this day of a group of midwives from the 1950s into the 1960s. Whilst in labour, some of the cast members from Call the Midwife would suddenly turn up in the hospital, still acting like they would from the 50s, before the father of the unborn baby demands a doctor when the TARDIS materialises in front of them, and Matt Smith's 11th Doctor walks out explaining what's about to happen during the birth. 2017, there was nothing proper for Doctor Who. Not in the live show at least. The Doctors did do a get-together, which included Peter, Matt, David, Paul, Sylvester, Colin and Peter, which David cleverly said that Peter was being forced into it because he's David's father-in-law and he has to come. In 2019, the Doctor Who appearance was short and brief. It included the TARDIS materialising and the 13th Doctor stepping out with instructions on how to donate, also mentioning she's doing this appeal for another planet as well. In 2021, Comic Relief did a spoof trailer for a movie about COVID-19, which was heavily affected in the UK during the year 2020, which meant the spoof trailer was called 2020 The Movie. It featured a brief scene of then Doctor Who stars Jodie and Mandip playing the roles of doctors in a hospital. The end of the scene would involve Jodie pulling out a sonic screwdriver to use before Mandip stops her by putting her arm down. Whilst not a specific Doctor Who scare, it featured a Doctor Who element. Surprisingly, Doctor Who skipped Red Nose Day for 2022, even though Sport Relief had already been scrapped a couple years earlier, and Red Nose Day became Comic Relief every year. Instead, Doctor Who returned in the 2023 edition of the show, with host Lenny Henry feeling unwell backstage. his hands would start to glow with regeneration energy before full-on regeneration occurs, with David Tennant coming out of the other side, mimicking the 2022 regeneration scene of Jodie turning into David. 2023 also featured a Eurovision audition skit. This briefly featured a Dalek who wanted to sing for a spot on Eurovision, claiming he had the voice of an angel. And we get to today. No idea if we actually have anything showing for today, but Russell has teased an announcement. But it's unclear if that's going to be revealed through Red Nose Day or something else. So we're just going to have to wait and see. Perhaps by the time this has gone up, it's already been announced. So that's it for all the Red Nose Day skits and appeals. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.